Welcome into Overtime, presented by McDonald's. Dewey, Dailey, along with John Bruce for today's show. A little bit later in the week than we typically do. They're usually going to come out on Tuesdays, but with finals coming up, we kind of had to rearrange it a little bit. But we previewed the girls last week. They actually started off this week on Wednesday, so they've already sort of gotten into their season. Boys don't start until Friday, so we're going to take a few days beforehand to sort of preview their leagues and talk about some teams we think maybe will win their leagues and some players that may have some roles in them doing so, and also some just players from around each of those leagues in general as well. So it should be a fun episode as we sort of look back and maybe see what's left over from last year and who could maybe take a step and fill some shoes that were lost over the season or over the off season to graduation.
Yeah, we had an outstanding season a year ago, and I think with the returning players and teams, it shouldn't be any reason why there shouldn't be another outstanding season for 2023 and 24. Now, for the girls, we're not forgetting about it. It's been, we're doing this on a Wednesday, so it's been a week's worth of action. I've actually been to 5 games so far. We're going to talk about anything that's happened this past week and then next week for next week's show, into next week. So next week,
big performances.
Yeah, there's been some big performances from some young kids too. So it hasn't just been seniors, but there's been some really good freshmen so far, and we're going to highlight as much as we can on next week's show. So make sure you tune back in for that episode, as we'll
should be on Tuesday. We'll probably get back on track for next week. So.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see once we get there. All right, so we'll start off, boys, same way we did with girls. We'll go SVC, and then I won't go all the way through because we'll have timestamps down below if you want to look at one specific team or one specific league. I think there's 7 leagues. Or no, actually, I think there's 9 because I think you did 5 and I did 4.
Yeah, it's like...
I mean, some of the, like the SOC has 3, but it's kind of 1, and the SHAC has 2. But altogether, it's 9 different conferences.
Yes.
So we've got a lot.
And we, while we won't really go into it, Benton County should be really talented this year.
TVC.
I think they're probably going to win the TVC on their side. Nelsonville's got a couple good returners. Athens has a couple good returners back. So, I mean, we will talk about the TVC when the time comes, but since we only cover part of it.
Right, I won't necessarily do a league preview, but obviously a lot of the teams we cover, and we do cover some TVC teams, but a lot of those teams play each other. So, I mean, some big performances, some big games. We'll obviously talk a lot of TVC down the road.
So, starting off in the Cider Valley Conference, I'll take that one. Last year's winner, Zane Trace Pioneers, went 21-4. They're district runner-up. They lost in the district finals to... it was South Point. I was going to say just Caleb Lovely because that was he went ballistic in that game down at the Convo. But graduated, Nayland Robinson, Xander Ream, both were all Ohioans. Ream was a second teamer, and Robinson, I believe, was special mention. But Kyle Stonerock was another player that they graduated. They lost a lot of size, but they still got some good returners coming back with Landon Robinson, Brock Jarrell, who both started last year, LJ Jarrell, and Carter Langley. He missed most of last year with injury, but he's
like a broken nose.
And then he had a torn labrum also. So he had a rough, I believe, rough end of football into basketball last year. But it seems like he's healthy now, which is will help them a lot. Zane Trace, a lot of what they have returning are role players. So if those guys can adjust to their new roles, which will be a lot more scoring wise, just based off what I saw of them in the SVC preview the other day, I really like what they have athletically coming back. So they're going to be a team that it's going to be a little different because usually with St. Trace, it's, big bruising inside, but I think this team's going to be a little more up and down, a little more oriented around the 3-point line. So they should be a fun team to watch as well. But for my team to beat, not a homer pick, kind of is, but Uniota, they went 14-9 last year, lost to Marietta in a sectional final, but they returned all 5 starters from a year ago. They also returned 2, actually 3 bench players from last year as well. So they return a majority of their team. Maddox Fox, who went on to was Ashland? Yeah, went on to Ashland to play college football. He came in late in the year for them last year, but really other than that, that's the only senior that contributed. Coming back for them, Blake Hoops, who averaged 10.2 points a game last year. He was honorable mention All-Ohio. I believe was third team All-SVC. I know he was All-SVC. KB Perkins, 9.7 points a game last year, but also 10.9 rebounds a game, was just monstrous on the glass throughout the year. Plays a lot bigger than what he is. Zeke
saying something considering.
Yeah, it's not like he's small. He's 6'5" and pretty strong kid. So Zeke Shoblock, 11.2 points a game last year. He missed really about the first 3 weeks for them and really started to come on around Christmas. That game against Jackson last year that we did on stream, he was outstanding then.
Remember what else happened that day?
Oh, boy.
I think it was that day.
You're going to have to tell me.
I think that was the DeMar Hamlin day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the same day.
Yeah, because I remember going home and I was like going to I was going to talk to him. I talked to my mom about the game and she was like, just not talking. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because I went to Roosters after to watch like the last half of it and
didn't watch any of it.
No, didn't watch any of it.
Yeah, so so Shoblock, 11.2 points a game last year, 41% from three. I believe he hit 5 threes in that game against Marietta. He's really good, evolving as a defensive player as well. Blake Fitch, 8.9 points a game last year, 4.1 assists per game, 2.2 steals. Newton Hoops, 6.7 points a game, mostly off the bench last year, 39 threes. Shoblock also hit 39 threes as well. And Jordan Perkins, who's going to be a 3-year starter, he only averaged 4.6 points a game last year, but 1.4 blocks. Really does a nice job around the rim. And then they also return Ashton Crace and Caden Cutright. So those are kids that have played a lot of basketball, a lot of varsity basketball. So, and then if you didn't see it on the stream of the SVC preview, Ashton Crace started off their game with a monstrous dunk. It was, really impressive, especially for a kid that used to just not be able to do it. But he went up two-handed and just hammered it. So it was brought the small crowd to life in that game. I can't stand previews. But one good thing about the previews is you can see who's playing and who's not.
Right.
Most of the time. Because one of the players I'm going to talk about in this next group of players to watch wasn't actually there, even though he is playing for Southeastern. So first player to watch is Jody Ader from Medina, 15.9 points a game, leading scorer returning to the league. Daxie Step graduated, and so did obviously Xander Ream, as mentioned earlier. Ader was honorable mention All-Ohio last year for Medina. Also, Bryson Smith returns at point guard for them. Caden Lee is actually a transfer from Chillicothe. He came in. They're going to have a lot of good athletes out there. It's going to be maybe a little better Medina team than people were thinking early in the season. So athletically should be able to do it. We'll see how they do defensively. Then from Westfall, Brody Clark, 14 points a game last year, 46 made threes. I didn't have his 3-point percentage by the end of the year. I have it somewhere in like my files at home, but he shot it like crazy. Like late in the year when we
saw him a couple times.
Yeah,
saw him over at Circleville, and then saw him at home against Unioto.
Yeah, and him and
Casey Klein.
Yeah, him and Casey Klein took each spent a half scoring 20 plus points in that game. So a big thing for Westfall is they got Joe Ray from Circleville. He's point guard. That's going to help them. That was a spot where they're going to need some help. And, Ray started most of the season last year as a freshman for Circleville, did a nice job for them. So you can just tell that gives them.
I think it wasn't like ridiculously high, but it was like maybe 15. He set the single game assist record. I can't remember what the exact number was.
It was
like 15 or 16 maybe.
It was, and that was early in the year too. I think I was in December. So had a really nice year over there, and then just sometimes you go elsewhere.
Too far of a drive. It's a little pick away rivalry between those two,
which is probably going to only spark it because I think they play in December.
They play before the second half of the season.
Because he'll be out the second half, but they do play. I believe they play over at Circleville again, which is that Circleville Classic that we did last winter.
May not be there this year.
Yeah, we'll see. And then for Piketon, man, they've got some nice players coming
saw
back.
Them a couple of times last year too.
Yeah, Brent McGuire, 12.8 points a game and 2.1 steals a game last year is probably their top guy coming back. 6'4", can really guard on the perimeter and shoot the ball well as well. So that's going to be big. But another one is Garrett Legg, averaged 6.5 rebounds a game, almost 2 steals a game last year. he had a bad leg injury his freshman year, and you could tell it was still hampering him a little bit last year, but just in the summer and in the preview, it appears like he's no restriction at all, which is going to help them a lot. Declan Davis, kid who really works hard for them on the perimeter, can do a little bit of scoring for him. And then Bo Henry, who is not small, about 6'6". He's got good feet, good hands, can finish around the rim. Is going to be an impact player for them for the next 3 seasons. For Southeastern, Connor Smith, 11.8 points a game last year. Lane Williams, another kid. We'll see them on Friday when they take on Waverly. And then over at over at Paint Valley, Braylon Robertson and Carson Free are both returners for them. It could be a tough start for them just with, long football season, but also, you graduated 4 of your 6 guys that really played last year, and got to find some new roles. So as we see, I think is going to be a little more balanced between, some of the
2
middle
and 7.
Yeah. But I do think it's going to be an interesting league, and as always, anybody can beat anybody, especially on the road,
right,
or at home, I should say.
Right. All right, so we'll look to the FAC now. Last year's winner, Washington Courthouse. They go 20-5, 9-1 in the league. They do split with Jackson. I think Jackson finished 3rd in the league. They had a 12-12 record. They do lose in the district semifinal to New Lex 54-49. That was when we were talking about was kind of surprising a little bit with the success that Courthouse had in the regular season. Now, they do lose Tanner Lee Master. He was the FAC Player of the Year. He's now playing football for Kentucky. Not too often you get to say that about somebody from our coverage area. They also lose the older Haithcock brother and Riley Haithcock, and they lose Braden May as well. However, I'll just go right into it. My team to beat is still going to be Washington Courthouse. They're the only FAC team that is bringing back more than one. All FAC selections from a season ago, Isaiah Haithcock, and then John Wall, who I will say, I think our first time seeing him was when he was a sophomore. I forget which game it was. Maybe it was the Chillicothe game, but I feel like he's been one of the more improved players we've seen over the past few years. I think he's developed into somebody that Coach Bartroff can kind of lean on a little bit, especially now that he's a senior. I think, and also with those two, you have Garrett Rickman, who should have a more expanded role. I think maybe he averaged 5-ish points last year.
Yeah, but he can really shoot it too,
Yeah, great player. And like I said, I think Coach Bartroff has a great group of senior leaders. I expect them to win the FACs. A lot of these teams that were up with Courthouse have sort of lost a lot. So, you look at Miami Trace, you lose Guthrie and you lose Reisinger. Those were their only 2 all-FAC selections. Now, I know you had a couple other names that could step up for them. With Jackson, you bring back Boston Campbell. Evan Jarvis has graduated. They were 12-12 last year, but they were the only team to knock off Courthouse. Head down Tate Davis for Hillsboro. They had 2 all-FAC selections, but Bryce Parsons graduated. Now, they only went 6-17 last year, so I'm not totally sure where they will stand. And sort of the same can be said for McLean and Chillicothe, as Trey King was kind of Chillicothe's guy. He's gone, and I think we even said the one kid transferred over to Adena. And then McLean didn't have any all FAC first. It didn't have it because the FAC doesn't do first, second. It's just one team. And McLean didn't have any. So, a couple years ago, they're playing in the regional semifinal against Waverly over at the Convo with, I almost said Kadarius Toney, but I can't remember. I can't remember his first name. Kendall Toney and what was it? Brogdon? What was
this is bad. This is bad.
I can't remember his name. Because he was I think he was the player of the year.
He was so good.
I can't remember his name now. Badgley.
Yes.
It was, I don't know his first name.
Bryson?
But he had Badgley, Bryson Badgley and Tony. And there were a couple other guys as well that were big players for them, but just sort of now it doesn't seem like they really, from the outside, doesn't look like they maybe have a player that they can lean on, but we may be proven wrong. I think the first time around with Courthouse last year, it was a 2-point overtime game because we were kind of talking about headed over to the School of Beauty for that one, but we didn't make it over there. So I would say Courthouse, they should win the FAC. Now, really, with the other 4 teams, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I mean, they went 18-5 last year, so obviously they had other guys. I think Miami Trace and Jackson will be sort of the next two, and then we'll sort of see where Hillsborough, Chillicothe, and McLean lie with just those three. But I do think Courthouse probably repeats as FAC champs again.
Yeah, one thing with Jackson is, and especially like that game we saw them, they were playing like 4 or 5 freshmen last year. So besides Boston Campbell, it's going to be a lot of sophomores. So even though they played a lot last year, it's still going to be some growing pains, especially with Evan Jarvis being that number 1 scorer last year. Miami Trace has some good talent coming back. We'll see. I think with McLean, with Coach Noska, coming from Wilmington / St. X, shout out Carson Francis.
Both your guys' places.
Yeah, I taught at Wilmington. I coached at Wilmington. Yeah, let's go Wilmington Cane Pride baseball, baby. But Coach Noska was there when I was there, and he's really good stand-up guy, and he took Wilmington to the state tournament in Division I as the smallest school in Division I. So, I mean, yeah, he had a 4-year starter in Division I, and Jen Cumberland, but still, that's not the easiest task to do. So he can really flat out coach. Chillicothe is going to be very young, but I think in a couple of years they could be really fun to watch. So if you're going to get Chillicothe, you want to get them now while you can. And then you mentioned Tate Davis from Hillsborough, really fun player to watch. So yeah, I think the FAC, I think it's probably going to be Courthouse, but at the same time, I do think there's going to be some battles over there in FAC land, and I feel like Courthouse and McLean might be one to watch because it seems like it always is.
Yeah, it always seems like those two go at it. I will say the best basketball environment I've ever been in was that McLean Courthouse district final over at
Southeastern.
Yeah. That was insane. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah, we missed the end of the game because somebody tripped over.
No, that was after.
Was it?
It was after the buzzer. So we were going over stats and stuff.
Yeah, it's like somebody tripped over my chair and.
No, they were walking down the steps of the bleachers and just like swantoned on you out of the bleachers. Yeah, that game was nuts. I know Courthouse didn't win. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing blanks on everybody's names. What was the point guard for Courthouse?
Oh,
I think it was his only year. At
give us. It's been 2 years, so just give us that.
If I could remember his name, I'd say. That kid went nuts that game. I think he had 2 and 1 threes. I mean, it was just. It was
he had
crazy.
Close to 40, and they got some bad technicals late in that game, and kind of iffy, but also things like just don't even look at the refs if you think that they might do that. So that's the one thing. But yeah, I think the FAC will be really fun to watch this year. Moving on to the SOC1, so the small division. Once again, going back to last week's episode, we're pretty sure the small is going to be the SOC1, medium is going to be SOC2, and big is going to be SOC3. But last year, the winner was Green. They went 20-6. 13-1 in the league, district champions. They did graduate first-team All-Ohio and Levi Sampson. And also, you're going to love this because I don't know if you're familiar with this. They also graduate Gabe McBee, but they also now return honorable mention All-Ohioan Abe McBee.
No way.
Yes. Abe McBee.
Rico Coulter.
Yeah, Rico. Yeah, Rico was...
He went crazy.
He was nasty. Yeah. I think he had 40 in his first game. They were playing Gallia over at St. Trace, and we didn't think they were going to be good, and then Rico comes out and just goes ballistic.
No, he's one of the better just players I've seen in the past few years.
Yeah, so going back to Green, honorable mention All-Ohio and Abe McBee. He had 12.9 points a game last year. Was really good in the tournament for them, helping them get to a district championship. And then John Knapp, who was a freshman last year, but that dude could flat out shoot it. And his sister is one of the ones that we'll talk about next week on the girls show because she put up 42 in her first high school game. So,
some impressive rookies.
Yeah, some hoopers in that family. But yeah, with Knapp and McBee, they'll still be solid. Obviously when you lose a first team All-Ohioan like Levi Sampson, it's going to probably take a slight step back, but at a school, Green size with the size of the rest of the league, it's going to be, just kind of how quickly can you reload. Team to beat for me, I have Notre Dame. They went 19-6 last year. They're district runner up. I believe they went 12-2 in the SOC1. I'm trying to remember who got them. It might have been Sims Valley. Might have got them. Might have been the second team that beat them. No, it was Ironton St. Joe. Ironton St. Joe got him the second time. Cody Metzler, who's honorable mention All Ohio, 13.4 points a game. They had some players back from last year. They had an injury early in that district championship game down at the Convo, and that kind of swung the
pendulum.
Yes, good job. I'm glad you knew what I was talking about doing the
needle mover.
Yeah, and that kind of boosted Fed Hawk to be able to knock them off in that district championship game. But Notre Dame, a well-coached team. You know, they seem like they always have a little bit of depth, so should be a team to watch. Now, some players to watch across the league: Evan Balestra and Drew Brown from Ironton St. Joseph. You know, just a couple of really good athletes for them. They've got just
how big is their basketball team? 7 or 8?
Theirs?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's like
yeah, like
it's like the whole school.
Well, I know, but that's why I said 7 or 8.
No, I think they had like 14 on their roster.
So that's everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. You got like I'm just wondering. So like,
because like every time we talk about Ironton St. Joe,
we always
have a team. Yeah, baseball's the most impressive because I mean, technically you have to have 9, but like in reality, you probably should have like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Maybe
well,
12.
and that's soccer though. With you know, you got to have 11, and you know they only have 18 in the school.
When are they going to get a football team? That's fine.
I think Uniota is 1-0 or 0-1 against Ironton St. Joe. Like it's one of the two because it was a good bit bigger at one point. Like,
I was gonna say
not huge, but
I mean they probably had like 22 boys on like a class or like in their entire school, not 15.
Yeah, so that was back when probably when Bishop Leger was still a high school, which is coming back.
Is it?
Let's go. Yeah,
let's go Panthers. In our coverage area.
They better be.
Although
we do have a lot of Christian schools that
we have RCCA. What's the one that played?
Highland County has one.
What's the one that played?
New Hope.
New Hope.
We've covered New Hope a couple of times.
I know we haven't streamed them. We could have. I don't think that game was very close with them and
Athens last year.
Whoever they were playing.
They put it on them because that was the.
Well, they had a really good player.
Yeah, they had a kid who was either first or second team All Ohio.
I thought so.
And they weren't even technically OHSAA, but they still were. They were good enough to be OHSAA All Ohio. But yeah, they were.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, I love our state. But and then I've heard a lot of good things about East. Like last week's episode, we didn't go in depth on any freshmen, but I've heard East has a couple of nice freshmen coming in. So we'll wait for them to kind of show it on the court, and then we'll be able to talk about them because you just never know how that's going to translate from one year to the next. So you know, so in that league, you got Green, Notre Dame, Ironton St. Joe, East, New Boston.
Yep.
New Boston.
South Gallia is in that one?
No, South Gallia is in the middle. Now this is going to be.
You got it all.
There's 6. I just named 5. Because Sims Valley's in the middle. Western's in the middle. This is going to drive me nuts. Clay.
Oh, Portsmouth Clay.
Yeah. Their best player went to Portsmouth. So, I mean, he averaged close to 20 games.
We'll get into that later, but them losing. Oh, man. You know, when I was writing about Wheelersburg, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to jump right into it now.
Yeah. So, yeah, you take it. SOC3. You got it.
So the SOC3, formerly the SOC2, just now it's minus Northwest and Eastern, I think, are the two that went to the middle conference.
Northwest, Eastern, and Oak Hill. Yeah.
So last year's winner was Menford, 22-2, 16-0 in the league. District runner-ups, they fall to North Adams, who we'll talk to a little bit later. I don't think anybody saw that one coming.
I watched Menford put it on North Adams at Menford during my three games in Portsmouth Day, and that was I didn't think that game.
Oh, so they played in the regular season.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it was gonna be close.
Hopefully we'll be able to see that. I think what was it?
Because they switched locations.
Yeah. December 18th at North Adams. We might be able to get down there for that one. But it was 54-46 in the district final. So, funny enough, Menford did not lose a regular season game to an Ohio high school in the regular season. Their only loss was to the Huntington, West Virginia team.
Yes.
And then they obviously lose to North Adams in the tournament. Now, they do lose Joe Hanna, who was co-defensive player of the year, had that awesome putback slam, I think is what I said, against It was
Valley.
Valley, which
Yeah.
I know it got a little bit out of hand towards the end, but that was one of the more exciting games I think we've
that
done
game
this
was so
year
much.
as well.
It was so much fun.
Valley has a pretty
and
cool.
then Minford just
Yeah,
pulled-
Minford was like, well, it was like 19-2, wasn't it, Valley? And then Minford kind of just took over from there.
Yeah, and once they took the lead, then they really took the lead. Yeah.
And then they also lose Adam Crank, who I think was either a 3 or 4 year starter for them. Seems like he kind of played a role in. Like,
I think he started
any
everything.
Minford
Yeah,
maybe
he was,
besides football, I think he played.
I feel like he might have kicked.
Did he kick? I thought Miles kicked.
Oh, okay. Well, either way,
Played soccer,
Adam
baseball,
Crank was a ridiculous
basketball.
athlete.
Played a big role. He was a big loss for them just across all boys sports.
He won a lot of games.
A lot of medals. Team to beat, still going to be Minford, right? You bring back Miles Montgomery. He was over 20 points per game last year. I believe it's Bennett Kaiser.
Yep.
Big player for them too. Jackson Shoemaker. I think he hit like 4 or 5 threes in one of those Minford games.
Yeah, he definitely shot a heat check against. I think he might have shot
Valley.
2 heat checks against Valley and made the first.
Yeah, he was had a big role in that comeback win over Valley. They also bring back Jeff Pica, who I would assume, especially with Crank graduating, will sort of have a bit of a more expanded role. He came in, I think he was like maybe even their 6th man last year, so he may even start this year.
And he was really all that really came in off the bench. So that was one of the big things for them was they didn't have a ton of depth. Now they have some really good athletes. Now, are they ready to play? Because a lot of them were still sophomores last year. So
I don't know if the Cottle kid plays basketball, but like he should if he doesn't, because he's. I mean, just watching that kid run around at West, I mean, he should, like I said, I don't know if he does play. I know he's only a freshman last year, so he may have been JV if he did play.
Right.
But I think if he does play, could be a pretty big player for them as well, especially as you mentioned with them not having a ton of depth. Now, some other impact players around the SOC 3. Kind of a question mark for Berg until I sort of had realization about what they will have, because I'm assuming Lattimore is going to play
I believe so.
basketball for them now, and he was definitely at least one of Portsmouth's top 2 players, as they had the Barry kid as well. I was impressed by them when we went. I think it was me and Brian Smith went down there to watch Fairland and Portsmouth play. Because for Berg, you graduate Schwamberger and Wright. You would maybe say E-Step, but as you mentioned, he's out for the season with an injury he suffered during soccer season.
It was actually during football.
He plays football?
Yeah, he kicked for him, and it was on a onside kick.
He tried to do a little Pat McAfee and go.
Yeah, and it didn't work. And he was going to try to play, and then wasn't able to, and then had surgery on the day that they actually lost in soccer. He had surgery that day. So everything I've heard is it's good, and he should be able to come back, if not for all of baseball season, at least for the majority of it, which is going to be big for the Pirates because he's really, really good athlete, good kid.
And last year for Berg, they were 18-7. They were 2nd in the league, and as we mentioned, I think Lattimore, if he does play, should be kind of the main scorer and ball handler for them. I was impressed from what I saw from him last year at Portsmouth. And then just some other familiar names from around the league. Jace Copley for Valley, he can really fill it up. I wouldn't expect a whole lot to change down there, as he was one of the more impressive players I got to see in person. I think we saw him 3 times, maybe. I think at Minford and then at Northwest one time. And
that game was...
Or not at Minford, but at home against Eastern and Minford, and then over at Northwest.
Yeah, and that Northwest one was Connor Lentz. We found out 10 minutes before the game he wasn't going to play.
And Northwest was up after now that obviously got a little bit away. I think the final was like 80 something to maybe 40, so it was bad. But I think they
came out on fire, and then
Northwest was when I think somebody had a pretty big. I think was it the Jenkins kid had a big first quarter, hit a couple of threes maybe, and then just some other names from around the league. Caden Nibbert. The only returning All-SOC player for Waverly. They have a new coach now with Kyle Bradley. He's maybe wasn't as successful at Huntington as he was at Adena. I don't think they won the gold ball, but they won the league at least. So he's familiar with some success. I think he could potentially turn Waverly around, especially considering they lost 20 games last year.
Well, and then with them, they're another school. They're going to start 2 freshmen. We'll talk about them a lot. Not yet, but we will. So
we'll get a chance to see them on Friday when they take on Southeastern at Southeastern. We always got to start off at Southeastern. Yep. Then just one player from South Webster. I'm assuming it's Tyler Sommer. 14-9, 8-8 in the SOC 2 last year for Webster, so he should be a big piece for them.
Yeah. So they got Coach Norm Pearson. came in, who's won nearly 800 games. I think he's retired 3 or 4 times. He won a state championship at Oak Hill. He was
oh, okay, I'm familiar now.
Outstanding coach at Chesapeake for a long time.
Yep.
Also, Cane Pride. Spent a couple years at Wilmington, but he was at Valley a couple years ago, and it just some health issues came up, and he stepped away, and now he stepped in at South Webster. So they got Eli Roberts, who was actually honorable mention All Ohio last year. He wasn't anything SOC.
I think he was second team.
Was he?
I think
okay,
so.
so he's back. So I mean they've got some nice talent coming back at South Webster. We'll see how they gel. I know their JV team was really good as well. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The good goal scorer in soccer. I know you're not going to remember this.
No.
Yeah, but but they've got some nice athletes for the Jeep, so they should be a team to watch. Hopefully, we can get down and cover them somewhere because I
just want to see the Jeep again.
Yes.
If we show up, if they don't have the Jeep, I'm going to be disappointed. So we might have to make
the
some
Jeep might have got
arrangements.
the most
screen
time on that game.
Yeah. And then just one other, really not player, but just for West. I mean, they were sort of middle of the pack last year in the SOC2. They lose Ryan Sissel, who kind of similar to Adam Crank for Minford, was just sort of all around. I don't know if he played baseball, but especially basketball and football was just the guy for them. And then I think Irwin also played basketball, and he's gone as well. So for West, not sure who's going to step up for them.
I know a lot of the football players do play. So
maybe Parker and Tipton and
this is bad.
Bishop.
Yes,
yeah,
Bishop.
3.
Yeah, Bishop's the one I've heard
What was it?
kind of the best thing. Jeffrey Bishop.
I know, but
4 picks and
I know, but what was it? Big time?
oh, yeah.
T-Money. Do you think the Lore kid plays basketball?
I don't know. They had so I mean, like the SOC, like even if it's split up, it's still going to be a gauntlet to go through. I mean,
each team has. I'm not totally familiar with the Nibbert kid for Waverly, but he was all SOC first team, and I'm assuming, especially last year with going 2-20, probably one. I mean, obviously Waverly's best player, so he should be great for them. And then we already know what Copley can do. We're familiar with Minford and what they have. I haven't seen the Summer kid in person, but I'm assuming he's really talented.
He's a big, strong kid.
And then obviously we'll see sort of what West comes out with once their season starts. I don't know if they play on Friday or not, but
well, one thing I'll say for this is not going to be talking down about any other schools, unless you want it to be talking down about any other schools, but South Webster and Valley are nowhere near as big as these other schools, and they wanted to stay in the big division. So shout out to them because they know what it takes to get ready for tournament time, and it's to play these games. And so, pretty good for them to want to stay in that big division. So I just wanted to throw it out there. I'm sure some people will say something about some of the other schools. But this is a compliment towards those 2 schools.
I will say when I was doing the SOC3, I started to sort of write stuff down for Northwest until I realized they were down as well. So
yeah. So speaking of Northwest in the SOC2, so technically Minford won SOC2 last year. So, but this is a new league. This is Northwest, Oak Hill, Eastern, Western, Sims Valley, and South Gaia.
Is that the biggest one? The most teams?
No, it's 3 of 6. Yeah.
Okay.
This is the most spread out one. Like there's some mileage going on there. Because like South Gaia to Northwest is not going to be short. Like at least like South Gaia and Oak Hill were in the same league at one point. I mean, before South Gaia was technically a school. As weird as that's going to sound that they were in the same league, but the schools that turned into South Gaia were in the same league as Oak Hill before Oak Hill went in the SOC. My team to beat in this is Northwest. They went 15-9 last year. They returned Connor Lentz, who hopefully when we see them this year, he is healthy and able to play, because we were really excited to see him that night, and he was just sick. I mean, you can't do anything about being sick. 21 points a game last year. Special mention, All Ohio. They also returned Jay Jenkins, Caleb Lewis.
It was Lewis that had a big first quarter for them.
Lewis, who also scored like 53 goals for their soccer team this year. Logan Wolfenbarker was a freshman last year. I think if they can stay healthy, they're going to be a force in SOC2. Definitely for this coming year. We'll see after this year. But they have a really nice senior class there for the Mohawks. So I think they are, to me, the team to pick in that. I have seen some other people picking Eastern, though. The Eagles. Tucker Lice, Jace White, Brewer Tomlinson, TJ Richards, just some of the names coming back for Eastern who did they beat Valley last year?
Yeah,
they beat Valley
96 in overtime.
Yeah.
They didn't beat him the second time.
But, so they, got some.
No, they had some decent showings last year, and they bring a lot of that back.
Yeah, and then their coach, super young. So, I mean, it's a team that they're in a division that is more their size.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, I feel like Northwest and Eastern were probably the two biggest beneficiaries of going to this new SOC2.
Yeah, I believe so. But like Eastern for years was in the small division of the SOC. So
well, I mean, they are in virtually everything else.
Right. So, when they stepped up, it was kind of bad timing on it, as they had one of their really good classes and then they had a drop off. So it was tough skating for them in the original SOC2, but I feel like they're going to be much more competitive in this SOC2. I believe we're going to see them Saturday. Against Piketon. At Eastern.
Oh, it's at Eastern.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to getting some eyes on them, seeing how they are after that great football run they had.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then, some other players to watch. Drew Hagee from Western was a starter for them when they went to I believe they went to the Elite Eight a couple of years ago.
They went pretty deep.
Yeah, and he was a freshman. 15.9 points a game last year. Honorable mention All Ohio, and also Cam Janes is another junior. I don't know how they're going to be depth-wise or size-wise as they lost Chase Carter to graduation. But, if you have two really good league guards, that you're going to be in pretty good shape for Western. A couple more players. Tanner Booth from South Gallia, 14.1 points a game last year. Honorable mention All Ohio, new into the league for the Gallians of the Rebels of South Gallia. And then Ethan Smith from Sims Valley. He averaged 15 points a game last year. He was also honorable mention All Ohio. So should be an interesting league. I think it's going to be really competitive overall, especially on the girls' side. But I do think it's going to be pretty competitive on the boys' side as well. So interested to see how the smaller teams do against them, and then go from there.
I'm not sure when Eastern, because since we're already going to Eastern Saturday, I figure we'll just look for the game at Northwest. But whenever Eastern plays at Northwest, I think we should try to get over there for that.
Northwest Streets is great.
That gym is sweet. One of the coolest paintings on the side of the wall. Things like 40 feet tall.
Yeah, that is
crazy.
It is big. Yeah.
That gym has a very tall ceiling as well. So
yeah,
I was impressed.
Yeah, you want a depressing stat
about Northwest?
Yeah,
sure.
When I was a senior, our only road win was at Northwest.
Nice.
We went 1-10 on the road. Real fun year. But hey, it was over Christmas break. We won by 20, and
nice little Christmas miracle.
Yeah, and then we came back and we're like, oh, we're 4-3, we're doing all right, and then we didn't win again for almost the entire month of January.
All right, so we'll move on to the SHAC. Once again, Fairfield.
I've won a lot more as a coach, so
as a player.
That gives me some leeway on that.
Win through the players of today.
Yes.
All right, so we'll look now at the SHAC. We'll start with the SHAC 1, where the Fairfield Peebles flip isn't quite as even in boys basketball it has been in other sports. But nonetheless, last year's winner was Fairfield. They go 24-1. Not only do they go undefeated in the SHAC 1, but they also beat everybody in the SHAC 2. They go 13-0. They are now in the SHAC 2, which, spoiler, probably going to be the team to beat for you, I'm assuming. But the team to beat for me, no?
We'll see.
No? All right.
We'll see.
I know the Rockets had a decent year last year.
See.
But
we'll see if I take the risk that you did.
All right. Well, I don't think the odds are quite as high for you as they were for me. But
Right.
team to beat for me going to be North Adams. Had a great year, especially down the road with a big win over Minford in the district final. They go 21-5, 11-2 in the SHAC one. Their only 2 league losses were to Fairfield, so they not only beat everybody twice in the SHAC one, they also go undefeated in the SHAC 2 as well. As I mentioned, district champs. They bring back Branson Copus. I figured he was one of the 2. Branson Copus was the SHAC 1 athlete of the year. Just under 17 points a game at 16.9. He was 3rd in the SHAC in that stat. Back for his senior season, they also bring back Jace Rothwell. He was 3rd in the SHAC in field goal percentage at 56.4. They also bring back Carson Osborne, who averaged 10.8 points per game, and that was 2nd on the team, and he didn't make the All-League, which I thought was kind of funny. We'll get into some more funny business with the All-League teams when we get to the MSL, but I just thought that was sort of odd. But he's back as well, another double-digit points per game guy for them. So, they're bringing back most of their playmakers, and now, especially with Fairfield out of the picture, I don't really see how they don't win the SHAC 1. I think we're going to see them potentially against Minford a little bit later in the season, so we'll get a nice look and kind of feel for them. But
I believe they only graduated 1 senior. He was a starter, but that was one of their bigs inside. So they do return the majority of the rest, but I believe it was Osborne went crazy in the district final.
I don't know if one of them he had like 17 or 18 points, because I remember reading that. Because I was trying to figure out. I saw his name on there, but North Adams did not have grade levels listed, and they didn't have it on Max Preps either. So I had to go through articles and kind of look for them to say, like, the junior made this many shots or whatever. And I was eventually able to find out he was a sophomore last year going into his junior year. So really even going into next year, you'll lose Copus, but you'll still have Rothwell and Osborne. So, if we're doing this preview next year, I think North Adams may be my pick again, unless Fairfield was to move back. Then there might be some contest there. But really only one impact player that you can just sort of pick from the bunch, and that's Cade Walkup from Eastern. He was just under 12 points per game at 11.9, but just for the SHAC 1 as a whole, there were only 3 returning all SHAC selections from last year. We already mentioned Copus and Rothwell, so out of the 4 other teams, he's literally the only one returning. So, I'm sure we'll see some players sort of sprout up because he's from Eastern, so I'm sure we'll see some people from Peebles, some people from, I think, West Union's on that side, and then Lynchburg Clay is on that side as well. So I'm sure we'll see some players for them, but for the most part, besides Eastern, all those 3 other schools graduated most of their players.
There's a lot of graduation because Lynchburg graduated. I believe they had either 3 or 4 kids mentioned, and they all graduated. They're all seniors, and they really played mostly just upperclassmen last year with a couple young kids. But that was the thing with North Adams was they had most of their kids are coming back this year. So even Fairfield lost a lot of seniors from last year. So with North Adams, they also returned Breeson Swigert, who had a nice tournament for them last year. I believe he was only a sophomore. Really good golfer there. Cody Hessler was the other name I was thinking of.
Yeah, I saw his dad. I know he was good at soccer, and I saw his points per game was maybe like 4 or 5.
Yeah, but
I wasn't sure how big of a contributor he was. But
very good
great
defensively.
Athlete, so he's back as well.
But Copus is the one to watch for. But but they are. I would look for North Adams to maybe not run away, but maybe run away with that side.
I'm not sure.
Eastern will be better because they're well coached. So,
and I will say, like, seems like, at least just from my perspective, especially from like a streaming standpoint, like the SHAC girls for us are covered way more than the SHAC boys. So hopefully we can sort of switch that narrative around a little bit this year. As they have some great athletes, and you'll get into a little bit more of those with the SHAC too.
Yeah, I guess I will.
I reckon so.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I'm not going
I'll do it. So SHAC 2, SHAC Fu, which was the Shaquille O'Neal Kung Fu video game from the 90s on Sega Genesis. You're welcome. You need to play it. It's as good as you think it would be.
It's not very good.
Right. So SHAC 2, Shaction. Last year's winner were Fayetteville Perry, the Rockets. 19-6 overall. They won sectional championship in the Southwest as they might be it. They're the only Southwest team left in the SHAC.
Who else was?
It was Ripley, believe it or not, but they are now in the Southeast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which
The Blue Jays.
like not this year. But Fayetteville, 19-6 last year, sectional champions. They return Caleb Tippis, 9.7 points a game, made 47 threes a year ago. Caden Jones, 7.7 points a game. Then a couple more players that played big minutes for them, and Alex Bradshaw and Chase Hendricks.
If you make 47 threes and only average 9.7, literally that must have been the only shot he ever made. Because I feel like most people with 47 threes would be. I mean, he just must be their guy on the outside the arc, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were. They were a team that
let it fly.
Well, and they had some good size. I believe it was AJ Adinger, Austin Snyder were a couple kids that graduated last year that were all SHAC honorees. So it seems like Tippis was. I'm going to see how many threes he shot.
Well, Kyle Korver, do they have that on there?
He was 38.5% from three. 47 to 122.
47 makes, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, and especially if that's the majority of your shots.
Yeah.
That means you're shooting at a high, that's a pretty good true shooting percentage. So he also averaged 2.8 assists a game, so he's probably one of their main ball handlers
Does it
as
have
well.
his total field goal attempts?
208, made 86 twos, or 86 total shots.
And 47 of them were threes. So
Yeah.
over half.
Here's a surprising number for you. 65% from the free throw line. You would think
maybe not as good as a
maybe he's got to be the
40% 3-point shooter.
Yeah, or it should be a catch and shoot guy at the free throw line.
As soon as the ref flips it to you, just don't bounce past it. Just chest pass. One motion.
But so Austin Snyder was a kid who 6'7", 12.4 points, 9 rebounds a game, 2.7 blocks. So I think you're going to try to stay a little more on the inside there. Austin Adinger was a 5'10" guard, but he was 13 points a game. So you got some roles to fill there for the Rockets, which is why they're not my team to beat. I tried to make it to where you're like, oh, maybe you didn't pick Fairfield, but yeah, I went with Fairfield. 24-1 last year, district runner up. They actually lost their top scorer late in the year. The whole school thing happened. Eligibility. So lost their top scorer, and then it seemed like, oh, maybe they're going to take a step back, and they didn't. They still made it to the district championship game, where they did fall to, I can't think of who it is off the top of my head.
Was it on our coverage area?
Yeah, it was Green.
Oh, Green.
Yeah,
because I thought Green lost in the district final.
No, Green lost in the regionals.
Oh, okay.
Because
those were played at Piketon, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, so because I saw Green beat Paint Valley, and then, which is a weirdly seeded matchup, and then Fairfield beat somebody. They beat somebody. All right. Not wrong on that.
You got to beat somebody to get to the district.
Yeah, I'm going to do high quality viewership here of us. Yep.
Searching it up.
Yep, got to look.
I will say Larkin Friend, that's one of the top names of all time. I know we've had some pretty sweet names like, man, what was the one for Fairfield? Oh, Steeler Leap. That was a great name too. But Larkin Friend, that's up there. That's a sweet name. They
beat Western. That's where I saw them. 56-53. It was a game that was surprisingly close because they were up big in that one. But then they lost to Green in the district final, 43-38. So, Fairfield graduated some good seniors from a year ago, but they still returned. Larkin Friend, 8.1 points a game last year, 6.6 assists per game, which I believe is one of the top in our coverage area on assists per game. I think there's somebody here later on that I'll talk about that was a little higher in that.
I would assume Mr. Ray's was probably around that last year.
Yeah. And then you had Trey House, who came off the bench for him, but did a 7.3 points a game. Was really big for them in the tournament. Gabe Fouch and Cade Miller, a couple more returners for them from a year ago. They really only played 7-8 guys, and then 4 of them are back. So they've got some nice returners back. So that's why I'm going to take the Lions to roar their way to a SHAC 2 title. We'll see. You know, it's going to be interesting with them in Fayetteville for sure.
You think anybody in the SHAC goes 13-0 this year?
I think North Adams will.
You think so?
Yeah,
that's what I would.
I think
say.
I think it may benefit them to only play Fairfield
right
once, but depending on where that game is, that it could not benefit them too. Yeah, look that up for me, Bob. I'll tell you who's going to be better: Manchester.
Yeah.
I saw Manchester down at East last year, and I immediately became a big fan of two players: Connor Darnell, 11.9 points a game last year, and Drew Kennedy with 9.8 points a game last year for them. Both are going to be seniors this year. I think Manchester's got a chance to maybe sneak up into that 2 hole with Fayetteville, as they only graduated one senior last year. It started so, just getting to some consistency coaching wise for them as well is definitely going to help the Greyhounds. Hopefully, can get an eye on them at some point. Yes, Dewey?
It's in Leesburg.
Ooh.
Fairfield, a little bit of a gauntlet to end the year, and the SHAC is, well, I guess there's a little bit of a gap, but back-to-back SHAC games is North Adams and Fayetteville, and then they wrap up with White Oak, which I think White Oak had the SHAC 2 Athlete of the Year last year. So,
but they did graduate a lot. It was, new coach also for White Oak, which I think came very late in the summer as well. So, but they returned Xander Rhodes, who averaged 7.2 points a game last year for White Oak. So they'll be an interesting team. Ripley, I'm going to say it every time, believe it or not, doesn't have a lot back. Also didn't have their ages on for most of their players from last year.
Either.
But from what I remember watching them, I saw them in that 7-game gauntlet for me.
What was that?
It was at North Adams.
Oh, it was at North Adams?
Yeah. No, the East day was, I saw...
That was a bunch of different gyms, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was Peebles against West Girls. East hosted Manchester Boys, and then it was North Adams at Menford Boys. So I got to see, it was a big SHAC versus SOC day for me. But so I think with Darnell, Kennedy, Rhodes, and then the Fayetteville kids, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting year in the SHAC 2.
All right, so we'll head extremely north to the Mid-State League. This is the Buckeye side. Last year's winner was Tays Valley and Fairfield Union, as they both split with each other and both went 13-1 in the MSL. Fairfield Union was 24-4 district champs, regional runner-ups, as they lost to Bishop Reedy in the regional final. Now, for my team to beat, obviously you'd think it's either going to be Tays Valley or Fairfield Union. I'm going to go with Fairfield Union because they are in our coverage area. And they also bring back Player of the Year Caleb Schmelzer, and also first teamer in the MSL and Caleb Redding. Those are two guys we're extremely familiar with. And, I mean, they've just been dominant all fall for them soccer-wise. They win a district title there. They won a regional too, didn't they? Did they go to the Final Four? They lost in the regional final. Yeah. So, and the thing about it is for Tays Valley, I believe, they're bringing back, I'll get into that here in a second, but they're bringing back both of their All-MSL first teamers as well. So if we get a chance to see maybe Tays Valley at Fairfield Union, that could be a good game to watch. I'm sure we'll preview that when it comes around. But I am going to take Fairfield Union in the MSL. Once again, you bring back Schmelzer and Redding. They were both first team MSL selections. Schmelzer Player of the Year. Now, some other players, extremely impactful players around the MSL. Briley Kramer was 18 points per game last year. He was all MSL first team. Now, Slater Searched averaged a double-double. He had 10-4 rebounds, 10-4 points per game, and was somehow on the second team. I don't know how often you get a guy averaging a double-double, but I feel like that probably warrants.
I hope he had the exact same amount of points and rebounds in the year, since he averaged the same.
Right, and he had that I feel like that buzzer beater against Westfall was just good enough to throw him on first team anyway. Funny story, I can't remember if I told you this or not, but I actually met his family over the summer. Did I tell you about it? So I interned at ODNR over the summer, and I worked at the fair, and I worked at their info booth, and this lady comes up to me, and her family was kind of back, but there was a bunch of them, and I think there's like 5 of them total because they have like a joint Twitter account and it's called like the 5 searches or something. It's funny, but
Say the search party.
Wait, that would be a good name too. That'd be like a funny, like remember how they had like the Cesaro section?
Yes,
that'd be something funny. But this lady comes up to me and she asks me for like a pamphlet for like Deer Creek or something, which is close to like where we're at. And I'm like, Deer Creek, and I asked her where she was from, and I don't remember what she said, but somehow or another she told me that her kid went to Circleville, and I was like, oh no way! Like, what's your guys' last name? And they're like, Search. I'm like, oh, I know Slater. I saw him. He's like, yeah, he's back here, and just this like massive kid walks around the corner. Big. I was like, yeah, that buzzer beater he hit, that's me and my guy that we do games with on the call. Thanks there.
My guy.
But like, I don't know. I just thought that was just a funny way to sort of meet somebody. But yeah, once again, Kramer and Search, 2 big players for Circleville. As they lose Joe Ray, I'm assuming they'll have somebody sort of step into that role.
They have
there
another young kid ready to go.
But like Kramer, like I would compare Kramer to sort of like a Jace Copley. I think they have similar play styles. Once again, 18 points per game, so he can fill it up.
Super smooth.
Yeah. Nehemiah Wall, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, for Logan Elm. Just under 14 points per game, 13.9 last year. The only Brave on the MSL first team. Logan Elm goes 9-14 last year. He's only going to be a year older, so I would assume they're going to have some players come up, and he'll only get better as well.
And I'll say this for Logan Elm. Last year, he was supposed to be their 3rd option, and then they just kept having injury after injury after injury. So the fact that he went from the 3rd to the 1st as a sophomore, and he still scored almost 14 points a game, says a lot about his game. So I would guess that game's going to be even more evolved. I saw them on film, and I liked what I saw.
He's a nice look. Like, he's pretty sizable kid too. That's what I was impressed by. And then for Taze Valley, already mentioned they're bringing back both of their guys, and Brody Fields and Sam Miller.
I got one more for you. Cole Nungester. He was another freshman. Him and Brody Fields both were freshmen starting last year for them, and they're both,
And then for Bloom Carroll, Jackson Wyatt, and then Hamilton Township, Jovan McBride. One thing I found sort of interesting about the MSL is that they had 2 freshmen on the all league team, which, I mean, most of the time you're lucky to see one, especially on the first team. And the MSL had 2, one with Fields and then McBride for Hamilton Township. Obviously, both of those not really in our coverage area, but it's still sort of cool to acknowledge players like that. I mean, we're already on first team as a freshman.
And it's, I don't want to say, anything about like the Division 4 schools, but like at a Division 4 school, sometimes you have to play a freshman because you don't have that many numbers. I mean, like these are all Division 2, a couple Division 1 schools. Like you got to be.
Well, and like Taze Valley making the jump to the OCC next year, so that's
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them, but they're going to have 2 like
seasoned guys.
Yeah, coming back.
Because what was the kid's name?
Cole Nungester. Yeah, they're both sophomores this year, both guards. Just both can really fill it up. So it should be
hopefully we get a chance to see those 3, and then all our boys over at Fairfield Union. I'm not sure how far of a drive that is. I've never been to Fairfield Union.
It's not that bad. It's just a little bit past Lancaster. It's on the other side. It would be nice if it was on the south side. But like I'm gonna say something. I'm not. I have to do it. Every time I have to complain, I have a chance to complain. I have to do it. Fairfield Union is in the Southeast District, which is fine. Why is Amanda not in the Southeast District? You literally drive past and through Amanda to get to Lancaster. Fairfield Union in the Southeast. Amanda, why wouldn't Amanda want to be in the Southeast District?
Like the Central or something?
Yeah, they're in the Central. Like I would much rather, no offense to our area, I would much rather play in the Southeast than the Central for the tournament. Like,
I feel like a lot more teams get out of the district in our area than because usually the Central only has like 1 in ours because you'll have like 2 Southeast teams and then 1 Southeast playing 1 Central.
Well, and then not only that, but you have a lot more private schools in the Central. Yeah. So, like, let's say Harvest Prep. Oh, you're Division 4. You moved up to Division 3. Okay, I get away from Harvest Prep. Oh, no, their competitive balance puts them in Division 3. Oh, you don't get out of that. So I know, Coach Carpenter that's at Circleville now, he was at Amanda. He had some loaded teams, but it's so hard to win in the Central. Right. And those teams I know could have made, at least to the convo, down in the Southeast, with, I think one of the years we went up there and they smoked us. I think, were you there? You might, I think you might have been there. At Amanda.
At Amanda basketball?
Yeah.
I think our JV got whacked.
Oh, it did. It was not a good, it was Evan. Evan Park had a good game that day, and he was about the only person in the entire program that had a good game.
I swear those dudes were like, every person in their lineup was over like 6'2", and we're just a bunch of like 5'10" white guys. Like we stand zero chance whatsoever. Yeah. We're just a bunch of spot up 3-point shooters.
Yeah. And they could, and we just couldn't get shots off. But yeah, so I think, Amanda, go to the Southeast. Fort Fry, go to the Southeast. Give us more teams. It'd be better. Ripley's being smart. It's technically easier to win in the Southeast than it is to where you have 2 private schools in the entire Southeast. And
what even? Notre Dame?
Notre Dame and St. Joe.
Oh, St. Joe. I completely blanked on St. Joe.
Now we got a bunch of other private schools, but they're all in the
well, they're not OHSA.
No, they're like the OCCSA or something. Whatever.
That's just RCCA, New Hope, Bishop Flaget eventually. What is Bishop's colors? Green and something?
Green and yellow. Beautiful. Ew. Beautiful colors.
It's like throw up.
Oh, it's horrible.
No offense to like North Adams, but
no, it's bad. You should see the Northwest thing that's painted on the wall. Flaget has the Pink Panther, but it's green.
Oh, no way.
And it's about the same size.
Oh.
I don't think the roof's as tall, but yeah.
Oh, God, we might have to go over there.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see that.
Hey, I used to run the mile in that gym.
You think there's a picture of, do they have like a normal size gym?
Yeah, but it's one side.
Oh, it's kind of like Trimble.
Yeah, one size fits all. But just one size fits several people. And they have smaller bleachers than they used to, but, go Panthers.
Do you think there's like a picture of that somewhere?
Probably.
I'm like very eager to see that.
Yeah, you would like it. He's like tossing a basketball too.
Oh, no way. I thought you'd say he's like spinning it on his finger. That'd be kind of cool.
He might be spinning on his finger. I don't remember that part. I do remember that at one point in the old Cindy Noble gymnasium that was right by Adina's baseball field, they used to have a painting of Goofy with every kind of sports ball that you could have, and it said sportsmanship, it's contagious. Yeah.
I'm not having any luck.
Well,
but that's unfortunate. But I did find one picture of like, I guess they have a mascot. I don't know.
Let's go. I didn't know they had a mascot.
But I did kind of want to see the Green Panther.
Yeah, Coach Nick Rose.
Is he a big Flaget guy?
He was a Flaget kid. He came over, and I had heard all this stuff about, him and a couple other kids that were coming from Flaget that were going to play on my freshman team when they came, and it would have been nice if only he came, but because he was good. But yeah, they would go down and they would go out and challenge themselves, play some good teams, and I kept hearing about them because one of my buddies coached them at the time, and then I think they still have a junior high team. But yeah, they'll be coming back to high school basketball at some point in the future.
So will they play like a Unioda, Chillicothe, Circleville?
I would guess they would play the smaller ones. So maybe
Adina, Southeastern, Huntington.
Yeah. Maybe like at Eastern Western.
Maybe Waverly.
Yeah,
now.
Maybe. But yeah,
they play Eastern and Western.
Maybe
it's so far.
It's not that far.
It's like 40 minutes.
Yeah, they go to Hillsboro and play them in a volleyball league now.
That's fair.
Yeah. So,
all right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we got the OVC. Yeah, the Ohio Valley Conference, the Conference of Champions. I don't know if that's true or not. I just wanted to RIP the Pac-12.
Sad.
The former.
Pretty much RIP the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's the Big 18.
Yeah, Big 20.
Yeah. So the OVC, last year's winner were the South Point Pointers. Speaking of pointers, you want to go get some of the puppies?
Start bringing those
on. Yeah. The Pointers went 22-4 last year. They were the regional runner-ups, had an outstanding season. They're going to be my team to beat as well. They returned Caleb Lovely, first team All-Ohio in last year, 22.7 points per game. I don't remember if he exactly went for a 40 burger in that district final. I know he was close. Yeah, he was very close.
I think BMG had that game, so we'll probably go back and see.
Yeah, that was after our shutdown for the year.
We just decided to just take our ball and go home.
Yeah, pack it in after one crappy thing happened. We
missed some good games.
Yeah, I know. we're not letting that happen.
No,
We might not get paid for it, but we're not letting it happen.
Yeah.
And then also, Travis Wise, their coach, was the Division III state coach of the year last year. Just one of the and also the thing about the OVC, they have some really good coaches as well. They returned Zathan Haney, who
Are we sure he's going to play?
he's going to play. I don't know when.
Right, because I know he obviously wasn't able to finish.
Yeah,
Dude, there's no way the Hunt kid doesn't play basketball.
he's on the roster.
God, I hope so. That kid's massive.
Yeah. So they also have Carter Smith, Braden Hanshaw, Josh Childers, because back from last year. Man, they had some good depth to them last year, but it was a lot of Lovely and Haney on that team. So I think they're probably going to be the favorites, but wait till you hear this list of players. Like the players to watch is. Like, this is the deepest I have for players to watch, and that's even deeper than the SVC, which, I know the best. Yeah. Because Ironton's got a pair. Stop me if you've heard this name before. Sean Terry, 15.9 points a game last year as a sophomore. He was honorable mention All-Ohio. Not their top returning scorer as Braden Schreck, also a sophomore last year, 17.8 points a game. Special mention, All-Ohio.
So special mention higher than honorable mention?
Yes. Special mention.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was... Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And then...
I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, so that's for Ironton. They dropped back down to Division III from Division II. They lost to Marietta last year, I believe, in the sectional.
Marietta? Unioto played Marietta.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking that might have been a sectional semi.
Oh, Uniota's was a sectional. Uniota's Division III? I thought they were D2.
No, it was D2.
You said they dropped back.
Ironton was D2 last year.
Oh, they dropped back to Division III. I thought you said they moved up to Division III.
No, they're back to Division III this year, which will help them, as I think they have the construction to make a deep tournament run. And I don't want to say it because, but he's a big time recruit. Is this going to be the last time Terry plays? Because Reed Carrico didn't play after his junior year because he was going to go.
Well, you don't want to jeopardize something like that,
especially with NIL now.
Yeah, I'm in all honesty, I don't know. I'm sort of surprised he's playing now. Because he's how many does he have? He's up to 8 or 9, I think.
No, it's more than that.
Is it more?
It's 15.
I didn't know that many. And they're all they're Power 5. Not all of them, but
yeah, I think the first,
at least half
the first couple weren't, and then the first Power 5 came in and was everybody else was oh, maybe we should watch some tape. Oh man, we should watch. Nobody else should watch tape on this kid. So Ironton is definitely going to be a team to watch. Hopefully, we can get down there for the Ironton Classic. It's going to be.
Is that the 28th?
No, that's the 21st. That's the Thursday game.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird day.
It's a weird
classic,
day. Yeah, hey. But the darkest gym in the world. Have I told you that? Ironton is a dark gym.
It used to be second before Westfall redid theirs because that was the darkest gym I've ever been in.
Probably. It might have been darker. Seriously? It's very dark.
The lights just aren't.
Yeah. Hopefully
that's
they
saying
got
a lot
shits.
Considering Lynchburg Clay has a black floor.
Yeah, that's true. I do like Ironton's gym. It's just very dark. Then next, Kenyon Franklin from Guy Academy, a 4-year starter. We had him down there against Courthouse last year, and
basketball.
Yeah, but also in football. Yeah, he's just an outstanding athlete. They got some nice athletes there at Gaia. Lost in All-Ohioan. We can't remember the big kid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did the hash pipe thing.
He's number 50.
Yeah. Isaac Clary.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
He went somewhere, didn't he? Decent? Marshall, maybe?
Something like that.
That would make sense.
You got a computer right there, bud. Type it in. Then moving on. I don't know why I yelled that, but moving on to Colgrove / Dawson Bryant, whatever you call it. Is it Marshall?
How tall do you think he is?
6'8".
6'7". How much do you think he weighs?
325.
Oh, 322.
Mm.
You're an inch and 3 pounds off.
Well, they had him at 6'8" in high school, but of course you got to do that. So that's probably true height. But so moving on to Colgrove / Dawson Bryant, Owen Johnson, honorable mention All-Ohio last year, 18.5 points a game. They're a well-coached team as well. Then speaking of well-coached, here we go. Part of my high school year's coach of Jeff Lyseth is back in Portsmouth. a 1978 state champion. Also was on the staff of the 1988 state championship team for Portsmouth. Coach Lyseth returns home after stops at, let's see if I can get this, Columbus State, Uniota, Chillicothe Girls, Piketon, Dayton Northridge, and then I believe it is now at Portsmouth. Yeah. So the only team he hasn't taken to at least a regional, and that was Uniota, which I still think if he had time to actually be allowed to stay there, he would have been able to do it. But yeah, he took the Chillicothe Girls to the regionals. He took Piketon to the state, took Northridge to the regional final a few years ago. So a heck of a coach going back to Portsmouth, and he's got a nice piece coming back in DeAndre Berry. 16.4 points a game last year. Honorable mention All-Ohio. They had some other nice pieces coming back as well. So I think he'll get some more players out as well. So, welcome back to the our coverage area for Coach Lyseth. Then moving on to Chesapeake, Danny Maynard, 16.9 points a game. Honorable mention All-Ohio. Game to watch on Friday. Chesapeake at Adena. We'll see how Adena stacks up because I think that Chesapeake team's going to be really good. And I don't know how good they're going to be in the OVC. I think Coach Ader's doing a good thing with them. I think they've got some nice pieces coming back from a year ago, but Chesapeake will be interesting. Fairland, another one. Coach Speed, really good coach. They returned Chase Allen, 13.9 points a game last year, and then Brody Buchanan, 9.6 points a game last year as a sophomore. It's I
think Buchanan's left-handed,
if
I remember correctly.
Oh, that's going to be...
Maybe not.
Hopefully we see them in a couple weeks over at Shawnee State when they take on Uniota. So Fairland's another team. They do their own live stream, so it's tough to get in there, but they do a pretty good job of it. So you can watch them. But Fairland last year nearly beat South Point in the district semis, so they're a team to watch for as they return a lot of guys. They were one of the ones I was close to picking them as my team to beat, but
did you see if Will Davis was coming back for them? Because I was impressed.
I thought he was a senior. I thought
he was a junior, so he's back as well.
Okay.
I don't know. The only reason I said that is because the one game I saw, his athletics. I was just impressed with him, just up and down the floor.
Well, no, they had a couple kids come back that didn't play last year. So Bryson Hunt is back for him. So yeah, they're gonna have the athletes coming out. So they're gonna be a tough team to beat for sure in the OVC.
So who would that? So we're picking South Point's far.
Yeah,
I think that's the farthest.
It's the furthest south in the state, the southernmost point. You're welcome. Then lastly, hitting on Rock Hill, Blake Porter averaged 16 points a game last year. He was honorable mention All-Ohio as well. So the OVC just loaded with talent, some really good coaching. That's going to be some must-watch games throughout the winter down there.
I don't think I've seen that many players average over 14 or more. I mean, you could say, Allen basically averaged 14. Mm-hmm. So literally, and I'm assuming Franklin probably was over 15 points a game as well. So, literally Buchanan is the only person on that list that wasn't at 14 points per game or more.
A sophomore in a loaded conference. So
I've just never seen that many play. Now they do have, how many teams are in the OVC? 8. So not as, I thought there were more for some reason, but.
Well, it's because you looked at the girls' side where it had all those extra teams put in it.
That was weird.
The Ohio Valley Athletic Conference, which is the weirdest thing in the world.
OVAC.
Yeah.
But, man.
It's got teams from.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did Lovely graduate or is he back?
Oh, he's back.
So there's another one. That's whatever.
They got a ton of guys that are at the top of the scouting report that are still scoring this much. So, yeah.
Yeah, the OVC. I know we talked in volleyball about having teams comprise I don't know, man. The OVC might be one of the better mm-hmm. If you took the best they had and made one team, they might be one of the better leagues. Mm-hmm. The MSL would probably be pretty good too, just because you get some of the southern-ish Columbus schools. But I don't know. The OVC has some players.
Yeah, it's loaded for show. For show.
All right. Well, unless you have any.
Speaking of for show, shows over for show.
Finished.
For show.
But unless you have any other games, obviously we'll be at Southeastern on Friday when they host Waverly, and then we'll be down in Beaver on Saturday for
maybe pick up a
whatever the first
washer,
game is,
dryer,
and then Piketon. Yeah, that was
washing
nuts.
machine.
That one, washing machine graveyard.
Yeah.
But Saturday, 6 and 7:30. What's the first game?
Huntington Western.
Huntington and Western, and then Piketon and Eastern. So a little SVC on now, SOC2 action to wrap up the week. And then I'm not sure what we have. I don't think we have anything before Tuesday of next week. So
No, nothing
the next
scheduled
time
yet.
you would see us after Saturday would be obviously next week's installment of Overtime. So
Yep.
yeah, that's the plan for the next few days. Should be a nice way to jump into the winter sports season, as we're a little bit behind it, about a week behind. But hey, we're starting with the boys. We'll have 3 boys games this week, and then we'll sort of nail down what we're doing for next week as well. So
Yeah, and then like we mentioned with some of the girls' action, that we'll have some previous games to talk about. I've seen. So I didn't see the Knapp girl, but I've seen, the Kelly girl from Piketon, the Pryor girl from McLean, just some of the freshmen that I've even seen that are just standouts, on top of like going down and watching Unita play Huber Heights Wayne.
Right.
Just, teams going out and really challenging themselves. So it's going to have a lot to talk about on next week's episode, as well as we also talk about our first weekend of boys basketball. Go out and support your schools. These kids work their heinies off, and, go out, support them. We got games Friday, Saturday. And while you're at it, tune in on YouTube for...
me, John, and Kenneth on camera. 3 games to wrap out, or to close out the week, and then back to the normal programming here on Overtimes with player reviews, game reviews, all that fun stuff we had in the fall, just now with boys and girls basketball. But John, I believe that is all we have for today's episode of SOSA Overtime, presented by McDonald's.